What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Ask a Superbike Genius, and I've got the genius himself on from the Attack Performance Progressive Yamaha Racing Team.
Yeah, that's us.
What's up, Richard?
The usual stuff.
So you had an interesting weekend in Washington. How'd that go, man? I'm on the team text chat, and it's really funny watching you and John interact with each other on about going to Walmart.
Yeah, I think John and I really interact about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Or the rest of the team. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have a team chat basically that we try to coordinate flights and who's going to arrive when and hey, you're going to ride with so and so in the morning and the Starbucks group goes to their normal green-haired Starbucks people.
You're part of that Starbucks group too, right?
Yeah, but those green purple hair people, they make good coffee.
I mean, I don't really drink
Marginally good coffee because I've had better.
Let's Starbucks.
But it satisfies the need in the morning at 5 a.m. or 6
You
a.m.
guys get your Starbucks bumps in the morning.
Yeah.
And then does
The whole deal started off a little bit miserable because I helped Walker drive the semi up to Washington. It's a nice drive up there through Mount Shasta area and all that, except the California Valley was like 100 degrees.
Oh.
And of course, the AC in the truck decided to fail.
Oh, well.
Yeah, so it was a nice 100-degree drive with the windows open, until we got to Mount Shasta and then get over the top of that thing and drop down the other side, and all of a sudden it drops 30 degrees, and the AC comes on.
Well, that's
so when it's 60-something outside, might as well have the AC come on. That always works out well.
Well, because you got to make up for lost AC time. So
yeah, it was quite the interesting drive. My eyeballs were on fire.
I mean, plus, like, you and Walker in a sweaty, hot rig up the state of California. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to trade places with you.
It wasn't so sweaty because luckily it wasn't humid at all.
Oh, okay.
It was like kind of driving through Arizona, so it wasn't so bad, but still was a bit miserable.
Yeah,
that's where the weekend started. So I thought, this weekend may not go so well, but it actually went okay. I mean, if you look at the quick summary, other than what Jake's still struggling with his arm. I mean, Cameron finished first and third in both races, and then Jake finished second in the first one. So it wasn't a terrible weekend, but it wasn't what we'd like to see.
So what's the deal with you guys? Like whenever MotoAmerica has rain, pretty much it's a given thing that you guys are just going to ruin everybody in the wet.
Like, we just do what we do since who knows when. We've always had decent. I mean, Heron rode our rain bike and he smashed everyone.
Right.
And he rode our bike in the semi wet and he smashed everyone. Right. So I don't know where the malfunction is with the other team, and nor will I help them.
Nor will you help them.
No.
They don't need any help.
No, I mean, they got to figure it out, right? So,
well, it's all about the new swing arm.
And the funny thing is you hear these riders go, man, I just got to try a lot harder in the wet. But we've had riders, like every one of our riders has ridden our bikes in the wet and has, I think, won. Heron won on our bike. JD won on our bike. Who else? Tony never had a chance to ride in the wet. But both of our current guys won. Bobier, he rode in semi-wet conditions. He won. So I'm trying to think back and JD had his first win in 19 on a Superbike against Gerloff.
Right.
So for whatever reason, between the electronics, the chassis setup, and our way of doing it gives the riders a bunch of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've gone at length about how you basically twist the bike inside and out and flip it upside down and backwards to make it work in the wet. It's not like you just throw the reins on and expect it to work.
It's about a 15-minute process if you have everybody coordinated.
Right.
But this last event we didn't have that much time because the rain was coming and going. We kept monitoring the radar. I mean, it seemed like everybody in our team was like texting somebody, but they were actually all looking at the radar on their phones and were comparing notes. It was funny because the Vision wheels. Them poor guys were pitted right next to us.
Yeah.
They just sat there watching us the whole time. And we had our wheels off before the race. And John and I pretty much snapped our fingers like a couple minutes to go and said, all right, wet tires. And then we put them on. And then as soon as we put them on, those guys put their tires on and they rolled out with us. And then as soon as our guys rolled out, the sun came out. So I looked at John, I go, hey, everyone's rolling out on slicks. He's like, oh, this could be really ugly if we got it wrong. But, you know, at the end, you got to use the science. Looking, you know, then I picked up the phone again. I said, did something change? So I look at the radar again. And nope, there was this nice green spot coming in a few minutes. And there was a nice little red cell right in the middle of it. I go, oh, no, it's going to rain.
Right.
Just a few minutes out. And so I'm sure a lot of guys complained they didn't have much time, whatever. They actually gave us, MotoAmerica gave us an extra 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think you asked me this question, right? Like,
I asked you this. Well, I mean, we were kind of talking shit about my show last night, right? And on the show last night, there was a few people that before the show, they told me that I guess the official MotoAmerica call for it to be a wet race.
For a wet race, yeah.
And they claimed that they didn't have enough time after that call to go to wets. And then you and I talked, and you're like,
does MotoAmerica tell you when to eat or sleep? You know, so I don't get it. It's like you decide how to drive your ship. You could technically run around on rain tires in the dry if you wanted to. If you have that allocation, and you can use any of the tires in your allocation. It doesn't say you can't use rain tires when it's a dry race. The only difference between a dry race and a wet race, right, is that a wet race never stops.
Right.
So if they started with a dry race, if MotoAmerica Course Control, Rick and those people up there, they're controlling the race. If they say it's going to be a dry race, and they roll out, and then 3 laps into it starts raining, they have to red flag the race. And they say, oh, no, it's raining. We got to red flag the race. Not safe. But if they call it a wet race, then you choose your tires. And if you choose wrong, you have to make a pit stop.
Right.
So if we chose the wet tires and we're looking at our radar and all of a sudden the wind turned and that rain never came, guess what? Our tires would be screwed in about 5 laps. Maybe they were gone to 10 laps. Because they shortened the race too. But maybe they were gone the distance, but it would have been very good. Been probably kind of ugly. So we've probably been outside the top 5, let's say. But and maybe we would have had to pit for slicks. I doubt it. You know, but it happened the other way around where you know a lot of guys rolled out. I think a majority of the people rolled out with slicks, seeing what the super sport guys were doing.
Right. But
we all knew, at least we knew, that somewhere at the end of the day the rain was going to come, no matter what.
Right.
It depended on exactly what time it came, and it was looking like it was pushing up a little further and further towards our middle of our race. So it wasn't like it was a complete throw a big guess at it, and then however way it plays out. But we did have some doubts right after the sun came out for a minute. But also too, and I think I told our tire guy, Mick.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
Mick Jackson.
Mick Jackson, yeah. I told our tire guy, Mick, I said, you know, you guys make a pretty crappy rain tire because it lasts a long time. So it's really kind of an intermediate. It doesn't quite have the same grip as some of the world level tires.
Right.
Like the Pirellis or the Michelins. You can see those guys in the wet, and they've got some pretty good lean angle. But it does hold up when the track is not very wet. Like if you saw
JD last year at Jersey, right? Where the conditions were like kind of shit, but like not, they were kind of okay in some spots. But like,
yeah, well, the track was mostly dry, had a dry line. There was a couple spots where it had a river going across.
Right.
So because of that reason, we couldn't run slicks. And the guys who tried to run slicks, they pretty much in the one section which was kind of wet, had a lot of puddling. Those guys pretty much, some guys high-sided, some guys went straight into the grass and fell over. I mean, I remember seeing some of the what you call front runners end up in the grass. And so it's kind of the same kind of situation here. But the difference was that this particular race, we didn't have time to put on our complete wet setup.
Okay.
And it was semi-dry. So the bikes were kind of a semi-wet setup. I'd say a middle setup. So
Okay.
we have 3 setups basically. We have full dry and there's a combination of that. So full dry with dry electronics, right? This is what we race normally, right, with some adjustments. And then we have a dry setup with wet electronics. Depends if there's any puddling or if there's any wetness down the straightaway, let's say. Depends on how the track is faring. And then we have a semi-dry setup with wet electronics. And then we have a full wet setup with wet electronics. So,
wow.
Yeah, so there's a full range of, I talked to Marshall. Initially, if it was going to be like the super sport race, we're going to just run dry with dry electronics and then just adjust some of the trims on the fly, on the buttons. And then once we start looking at the radar, like, nope, let's go full wet electronics. And then we only had enough time to put on a semi-wet setup. Otherwise, we had to spend a little time in the pit, and there just wasn't that much time. We had the 7-minute. They gave us 7-minute practice. So some guys might have chosen to stay out the whole 7 minutes. We did an out, fly by the start, finish, and in. So we did basically 2 laps.
Okay.
Where other guys might have used the whole 7 minutes. We used 3.5 or 4 minutes of that 7 minutes, and then the rest of the time we had 3 minutes to sit there and look at our radar and have both wheels off, ready to go. And so I think the MotoAmerica gave us is enough of a delay and also the 7-minute warm up that we had time to figure out what we needed to do. At least this team did.
So it looks like, I mean, in qualifying and the practices, it looks like Jake's getting going, and in the wet, it looks like he's getting going again. But then the dry, it's like right back to, the panic button. Like,
worst
what the hell's
results.
going on?
Nice.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's just struggling with that arm. All those surgeries he's had with it, they've all kind of compounded into some kind of scar fest in his nerve area.
Yeah.
So after Laguna, he's having another doctor look at it now to get second opinions and try to get some more a game plan going. But basically what happens is he loses feeling in his hand and doesn't realize where the grip is. And so it's pretty sketchy when you have a high horsepower motorcycle and first gear corners.
Is he probably going to the brakes earlier? Probably because.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can imagine it's pretty sketchy trying to ride around when you have no feeling of what's happening. Like your hands falling asleep and stuff like that. So the last thing you want to do is run into somebody, rear-end someone. So if someone's in front of you, you kind of let them go on the brakes. You're not going to challenge them. And so if somebody passes him, it's pretty much a stuck pass. He's not going to pass back. So he just tries to go out there and collect as many points as he can until we get a plan going. I mean, the guy's won 3 championships in a row, set a shitload of track records, got a win record, So
and the crazy thing is, he's been fucked up all year, and he's only 1 point back.
Yeah. I mean,
That's crazy.
Cameron right now would be leading the points if we didn't have the one DNF, and we had 3 DNFs, 2 crashes and 1 mechanical. And so if we didn't have those 3, he would be probably up 20 or 30 points.
Oh wow!
So I think Cameron's doing a good job, and ironically enough, his left arm fell or got pumped up in race 2 and starts falling off the grip. So I think some of it comes from the guys getting super hyped up for the race, like the rain race. I think Jake's fairly relaxed and smooth. Right. So he goes the whole race, and it's not a problem. I mean, he can run for the lead or the win, and then come race day, I asked him. I said, "Are you getting a little bit adrenaline shot? You get out there and no, I'm pretty relaxed, but it is. They get racing, they get close to someone, it starts getting some of that blood flowing, and then all of a sudden you get one moment, you accelerate off the corner and you tighten up, and then that's that."
So just Chunky Buns, the fan of our show, she's a nurse. And she's asking, she says, loss of sensation. Does Jake have a TENS unit? Is that electric shock thing?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor or a nurse or anything like that. I just repeat what I hear.
I'm
like a parrot.
She says, speaking from when my entire arm and hand was numb, the TENS unit daily, intermittently, but she's not a doctor. So yeah, she says she has almost all sensation. Yeah, she's the one that got taken out at Fontana, and it like shut off her arm. Like it switched it off, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Jake's deal is. I think it's more of a mechanical thing
Okay.
where there's some scar tissue pushing on a nerve, maybe,
Mm,
and he's losing sensation. I don't know if any kind of device can help something that's mechanical.
okay.
I don't know if that makes sense to. It's not only it's a chemical thing, but I don't think it's a muscle mass thing or that type of deal. I think it's something to do with that, and so hopefully they can figure out exactly what the deal is and fix it.
Well, me being me, I did send him the animated GIF of the Terminator pulling the skin sleeve off and showing the robot arm. So
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey, I think I got you figured out, bro."
Well, if our guys weren't such, I guess you can call it natural talents, where they ride without thinking,
Yeah.
if they could switch up a lot easier than do everything without thinking, then we could probably put a grip on the left side and a brake on the left side.
Yeah, like that Dunlop guy in the TT, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could do any of that stuff, but I don't think it's something you're going to learn in a race. It's something you have to go test for a while and learn all about it.
So we're gonna schedule a
Like
left-handed
basically turn the
throttle and
bars
left-handed.
around.
Oh,
I know it sounds crazy, but what in the rule book does it say you have to have the throttle on the right side and the brake on the right side?
I
I
don't.
switch that stuff all the time, right?
Right.
When I hop on one of our team scooters, it's got two brake levers. I'm like, which one's which? I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah.
Lastly, all I do is tuck the front on the scooter, go in the
In front of a
bathroom.
fan, you wipe out
Yeah,
a fan or something.
I was going to the bathroom and I crashed the scooter.
Oh man.
But you'd be amazed how many people crash the stupid scooters because they're in the dirt or something, grab the wrong brake.
Yeah, I don't know. That's that's a fear that I will never have because I stay on the pavement,
Yeah,
and I roll off. I don't go fast enough to even you really need the brakes when I'm riding the
yeah.
dirt bike.
You could figure out the left grip and brake pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You get all kinds of time going in the corner to figure
Yeah.
it out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Plenty of time.
These guys got the rear tire off the ground. They're on edge.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it's probably not happening.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Yeah. ED's commenting says Cam's left hand is already getting a free ride.
yeah, pretty much. He does. That's an inside thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he said it out loud, so of course I'm
Yeah.
like Ron Burgundy over here. I say
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah. Basically, I was giving Cameron a little bit of a hard time about using all the tricks of the trade on the left side of the bike because you'd be amazed how many guys have a hard time changing electronics on the fly with the buttons. I'm sure you're like, I never touch them.
Dude, I have the stock shit. I don't have anything to change on the fly. I can change the
You
map,
do.
I think.
Yes, you do.
I
You can
change the
change
map.
stuff. Yeah, you can change stuff.
I could
And
change
a
the
lot
map.
of people they hop on the bike and they just ride it.
The turn
They-
signal.
Yeah, turn signals. I mean, but I guess we're all slow enough to where we can think about it. Those guys
Right.
are like on edge all the time, and they don't want any distractions.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to put up a pit board that says. So I was asking Cameron. I said, so when you're out there riding, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm talking about body position. I go, what's your left hand doing? He's like, what? Yeah, what's your left hand doing? Hold on the grip. I said, it's along for the ride. Apparently, he's doing something because his left hand, his arm got pumped up, and then he couldn't hold on anymore.
It's sort of like I guess.
I think that's coming from his. I think that's related to. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I think that's related to his surgery. Having all the bones removed on the right hand and testing all winter with. I remember testing with him. I think he said this, but I'll have to. I got to think a little harder. But I remember him saying that something effective that his left arm was getting tired because he's using it so much because he was favoring it from his right because his wrist was so weak when we first started testing right after the surgery that he was just trying to see if he could still ride. And it was a concern at one point that he may not ever get all his strength back. But now he's getting stronger and stronger as he gets faster and faster, gets up the front. I think he's built up a habit of favoring his left arm. Now he's beating the crap out of his left arm.
Yeah. It's like having surgery on your leg or something and it changes your gait and then all of a sudden you're the opposite knee goes bad or something.
That happened to me. You
Oh,
know,
yeah?
I broke my hip at Willow Springs, way back in 19, whatever it was, 23, with the wooden wheels and, the horses and stuff. But anyway,
Carburetors.
yeah, well,
Anybody that doesn't know what a carburetor is, Google it.
I'm trying to think. I did have carburetors. Yeah.
Of course you did. Flat slides,
Yeah.
probably, right?
Yeah, flat slides. Yeah, and they made a lot of noise. But anyway, so I crashed, broke my hip, and then a couple months ago, my right hip started getting sore. Because I was at Disneyland with a family, and I was standing on one hip constantly, like in the lines. And then at the end of the weekend, I'm like, man, I'm kind of sore. And it's been sore for a while now. So I realized that I've been putting a lot of pressure on my right hip for all those years because I got used to favoring it. And I think that's in a shorter time span. I think that's what's happening with Cameron as well. I mean, he's used his left arm so much over the last year because his right hand was so messed up. But I'm glad to see like he's in the mix. I mean, both guys with all the ailments comes to show you how strong they are. I mean, Jake's still a point back, and Cameron's just a handful of points back.
Yeah, like 7.
Yeah, and the other guys are healthy. So I think we're okay. We just got to get these guys in race.
We're basically halfway now, right? So,
yeah.
No team orders all the way through.
No, these guys have to earn it.
Okay.
I mean, back in New Jersey, wherever it was, I can't remember. I can't remember who the second rider was. It might have been Jake, but anyway, whatever. I asked Tom about team orders. Tom Halverson, road race manager, and he said as long as there's a mathematical possibility of the rider winning the championship, there's no team orders.
Okay.
So if something happens to the number one guy and the other guy's pulling back and trying to play blocker, what happens if number one guy gets hurt?
Right.
Right. And then you've taken away the possibility of number two guy to win a championship.
So we're not going to have the old school Yosh, Aaron Yates having to sit up and wait for Matt to go by kind of thing.
Yeah, that happened. I remember watching it because we were pitted next to them at Infineon, Sears Point at the time. And Aaron Yates beat Matt to the line, and Matt came in so pissed off he smashed his windshield, and Peter Doyle was like, "Calm down, mate, calm down." And then he threw a chair and stomped off, and because he got beat by his teammate, but it was only I think the third round or something like that, second or third round. But that was the year that Aaron Yates was suspended a round because he did the flying kick at Daytona.
Oh, I was gonna say it was either that or throwing rocks on the track, right?
No, it was Kung Fu Yates. He was
Kung Fu Yates, 2004.
Yeah, he was doing that, flying through the air.
Anthony Fania.
Yeah, like those old Kung Fu movies.
Yes,
with all the lip syncing.
Yeah, I think I talked to him about that years later, and he's just like, "Wow, bro." Like heat of the moment. He's just, I don't know, passionate dude, right? I mean,
yeah,
these guys are all basically axe murderers.
Well, they're all type A personalities. It might be the nicest people off the track, but when they get on the racetrack, they're pretty aggressive. They don't want to lose. That's their deal, and they should be that way, right? They all should be that way.
Is there subtitles on that footage? What? Yeah, I don't know about all that, but
he said something about the Shaolin Temple before he went flying through the air. I can't remember the other guy's name either, but he crashed with him. Then he got up and went running at him and did a flying kick.
I want to say on the feed it had like the sound effects of the impact too, like right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I mean, you guys, both of your guys now have had 2 races where they're in the wet, scrappy, really close. I mean, really close.
2? I think it's been 3, hasn't it?
Was it 3? Well, these 2 were like,
we did was it wet at MotoAmerica? Yeah, it was. So we finished 1-2 at MotoAmerica.
Okay.
And then where else did we go?
Barber.
It didn't rain a Brainerd.
Yeah.
So it was at least 2. I'm getting all the years confused. I'm having a Biden moment. I'm gonna now.
So, anyways, right? Wow.
That's our president.
Yes. Yes, it is. You know, it's just it's kind of nerve-wracking watching them, but they're best friends, so it's like they're just having fun, it looks like, at the end. But they are trying to win. Looked like Jake was trying to win.
Oh no, there was no possibility of each guy letting the other guy by or anything like that.
Yeah.
They were gonna. It
was kind of funny. It was having them look over at each other going down the straightaway. Like that.
Then Greg White's like, oh, like when they're turning into turn 1, but I could see they're giving each other. I was laughing. I go, I know those guys are laughing in their helmets. It was kind of fun. A nice break from being stressed out over the fact of not really stressed. I hate using that word stress because stress is internal. No one stresses you out other than yourself. There's no such thing as stress. It's all internal. You can laugh. Your car can get smashed right in front of you. Like, oh, that's a car. Or you can freak out and lose your marbles. So there's no such thing as stress anyway, not to me. But sitting there watching those guys run around, it wasn't any concern at all. I knew they were going to give each other some space. It was like when the red flag got thrown, and then all of a sudden Cameron came to a stop in the middle of that carousel. Jake just about ate shit. It standed up real quick. I don't know if you saw the end of the race.
Yeah.
They were right next to each other, trying to go around the outside, and all of a sudden Cameron stopped, and they both went in the pits. Like, whoa! It was a red flag. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fun watching them, and they did have clear visor, and you could almost see Jake's ear-to-ear grin coming out of that last corner, dude.
Yeah, I think was it Jake or Cameron that said that's the first time he's actually looked at somebody's eyes going down the straightaway.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny, man.
That part was funny. I mean, the actual race itself was. I think that we've been working pretty hard on the weekend with Cameron to get his pace going. I think during the first race he turned the fastest lap of the race for a couple laps, and Heron went a tick quicker. I think he did a 40.1. Cameron did a 40.2, and our pace was really good. And so I was kind of a little bit disappointed that he couldn't maintain that pace the whole race. And then, of course, he came back in and said, yeah, my arm he couldn't hold on the bar. And so then, we're in the truck. I go, is there something we could do to the bikes to make it a little easier for you guys? But Jake's like, if you make the bike a little easier to steer, it's going to be more nervous. I'm going to have to hold it tighter. It's actually going to be worse. So we were thinking about, well, can we give up some of the turning of the bike or whatever to make it a little easier to steer? But at the end, you're going to build a slow bike, you're going to go slow. You can have a rider can't ride it, you're going to go slow. What can you do?
Well, I've heard, now, mind you, like the peanut gallery is full of a bunch of dum-dums.
Yeah, there's lots of peanuts out there, without a doubt.
So there's a whole bunch of dum-dums out there, and one of the things I heard from more than one commenter is that all this arm pump stuff is because of what's been done to the bikes to improve the. I don't know exactly what it is, but like, there's something you guys are doing that's causing this arm pump thing, and I'm like, I don't know how you do that math.
Well, Jake's had this problem for a couple of years now.
Right.
So that kind of throws that little theory out the window.
Well, we talked about it before,
and
right?
Then we didn't break Cameron's hand. The thing came with dead bones and stuff when we hired him. So we haven't done any of that, and him favoring his right arm by using his left arm more. We didn't force that on him either. Right. So, and why is it always one arm? Why isn't it both?
Well, they're opposite.
So, I mean, that's a nice theory, but nice guess. But they don't. Whoever's making up that stuff it's they don't know the chassis setup, and they don't know what we use from last year's info at particular tracks versus this year's info. So there are tracks that we are identical to the previous season.
Right. Okay.
And that was one.
Enough.
Yeah, that was one. Actually, that setup that we used at Biden Moment Ridge, it was exactly what we used, or very, very close to what we used in 22, chassis wise.
And who won 22 again? I forget.
I don't know. Jake smashed everyone.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So.
And 21.
Right.
So yeah, so that's a good theory, and appreciate that. We thought about that too, like how can we make the bikes a little bit easier, take some of the pressure off the hands. We've actually gone that way with some of the seating position, where it's actually a little bit less load on the wrists. And but at the end, there's a lot of G-force on the bike, and it's not from just riding; it's from all the G-force when you're in the dry and you're pushing really hard. So I think that it's just one of those things they're going to have to just get, fixed up.
Should I hope they figure it out? I mean, I guess like you said,
I don't think Cameron's is going to be a big deal. I think that was maybe just getting a little hyper for the race. Maybe he has to work out his right arm a little more and do some more different kinds of exercise for his left arm. I don't know if it's going to be 100% before Laguna. I think it will. He hasn't complained about it all year.
Right.
I just remember him talking about his left arm getting a little tired at one of the tests because he couldn't use his right arm as aggressively. So I think that was a little bit of more of the same.
Does the arm pump stuff? I mean, I know they were calling Road Atlanta Arm Pump City. A bunch of riders were calling Road Atlanta Arm Pump City, but
those S's there, they wear you out. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, is the arm pump thing for Jake and Cam? I guess could it be the tracks where they are up and down the gearbox now, the first gear a lot, or is it? I mean, I don't know. Like, was that kind of stuff a problem at Road America? I mean, well, for Jake, it's been a problem the whole time. But
well, he didn't have as bad a race at Road Atlanta, right?
Right.
He finished second with the arm pump, and he won when it was like semi-wet.
Right.
So he won it. Is that right? Right. We had a 1-2.
Yeah.
All these years started to blend together after a while because
me too, man.
All the images of them breaking into the last corner type thing. I thought he was second at.
Yeah, I think he was second race one, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think we swapped wins over there. I do believe, unless I'm mixing that up with last year. But anyway, and so it didn't seem like Road Atlanta was the worst. Yeah, I'll have to go back into the records there and have a look. But then you had a little more of a problem with Barber, and then Brainerd was worse. Although there were some fallers there, so his positioning wasn't bad. I think fifth,
right,
or something. And then this was the worst one because everybody stayed upright.
Well, I talked to Fonger, and Fonger was saying that he thinks that the championship's going to go down to the wire, and it's going to be tight all the way to the end. It's not going to be. Nobody's going to have the opportunity to get away this season. What do you think of that?
We'll have to see based on how good Jake gets.
Okay.
Because Jake can go out and do a fast lap pretty quick, and without putting a bunch of laps in. So he's always been able to do that. And if he's able to do more laps, then he can tune that riding to do it. I mean, Bobby's riding really good right now.
Yeah.
And he's a good rider, and he's really fit. And his long game's been pretty good. In the past, it wasn't that good. But it's been pretty good, and he's not crashing as much as he used to. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he's come into a comfortable location with that motorcycle, the team, and all of that. So I think he's got a good shot at it. And it seems like Heron's also kind of in the same type of position. And they both just blow in the wet. I don't know what the hell's wrong with those guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where is he at? Is he in another planet? Like, then he got pulled in, he got lapped. I mean, Heron got lapped. Of course, he was on slicks.
I think Bobby was on slicks too.
Yeah. So, the slick thing, I don't put that on the rider. I think the team should be strong enough to make a decision for the rider. Like, our guys just go, what are we riding? And we go, you're riding on reins. Okay. That kind of thing. And, what are we riding? I think it's slick weather. Here's the radar. Look, it's going to dry up in 5 minutes. So you just got this is the strategy. So we talk about it. And so I don't know if the other teams are just relying on the rider too much. Maybe what tires do you want type thing. So,
because I mean, I've been with you where you sent out the rider with slicks on, hoping for it to dry up, and then it didn't. That's just the chance.
Well, there was one time. It was the one time.
It's a Barber,
and that was a Barber.
I was the one running with the slick.
And I didn't send the rider out. The rider actually chose the tires because it was Heron, because I think he had memory of us running slicks when it was drying up. So
Right.
I'd asked him, he went around and there's nothing on TV for the warm-up lap. So I couldn't see the warm-up lap.
Right.
So he was at start finish and I had the radio on. I had, we're just waiting for them to, and we asked him, it's like, what's the track look like? He said, it's drying up. And then he said, yeah, I think we're going to go with slicks. I go, are you sure? Because I haven't had a chance to look at the track. And I was looking at the radar going, I don't know. But okay. So we sent the tires over there. And at that point, we probably shouldn't have put it. So then it started raining hard. So it was almost like not a complete replay of this race, but it was something of that nature where the rain came, it was kind of drying and then the rain came later.
Right.
So it was a gamble.
Did it ever?
Yeah, so at that point, I probably should have said no. You're going to ride on wets, and also back then we didn't have a full grasp of how long the wets can go in drying conditions. Because how often do you get a chance to test wets in drying conditions? Like only at the races, right?
Right.
So a lot of guys
you get an invite to the Dunlop thing, right?
Yeah, I mean you could do that, but you don't get a lot of practice. And okay, I'm going to put on wet tires and go run around until all the knobbies fall off,
Yeah.
All the grooves go away. So you don't get a lot of that, but over the last few years, that was 21 you're talking about.
Right.
So now it's 24. So we've learned quite a bit about drying tracks and Dunlop rain tires. So they've been basically the same rain tires since then. They haven't changed them at all.
Okay.
So it's a pretty hard rain tire, and it does go pretty good in the dry. Yeah,
that's interesting. But like I was saying, like that's the chance that all the teams have to make, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying earlier, like if you chose to roll out in wets and then it dried up, it would have been a bad day, right?
Probably not as bad as rolling out with dry tires when it was still drizzling and getting with the radar saying wetter. So I think the gamble our way was a little safer.
Right.
Because we knew the guys could still keep riding even with a mushball tire at a pretty decent clip versus riding slicks when it gets wet. The problem with these slicks now are you need a lot, and especially the latest generation of slicks, it seems like the window of temperature is much narrower. They're not like a street tire. So if you don't keep them, if you can't keep them hot, they're not going to work.
Okay.
Yeah, so where the rain tire it'll work cold. It'll work like we'll get a temperature inside the rim like 40 something, 50 something C on the rain tires. And so that's relatively warm, especially with a semi wet track. And with a dry tire, we'll get temperatures somewhere around 85 or 90 on the rear inside. Wow. Yeah, 80, 85, something like that. And close to 75 in the front.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty big difference. Like it's almost double the temperature. So. Yeah. And so you can understand that the tires work at a different range. So when you have a dry tire in a really cold racetrack like Ridge, they tend to grain up and fall apart pretty quick. So you don't end up with a whole lot of grip anyway. So it's kind of a toss up. So it's a little bit safer to go with a wet tire when it's like semi or dry. Yeah, wet tire was semi-wet or semi-dry, let's say.
Well, Kanye Rowan just commented, and he says that you guys just need to find an old lady like in the neighborhood with some broken bones, and then she could tell you what the weather is based on what it feels in her knees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could do that. We didn't see any old lady on the way there. Maybe that massive junkyard across the way from the track. You ever seen that thing?
I drove past it in the rental car.
It's a mess. I mean, are there any bodies in there?
Probably.
They're getting crushed. I mean, it's pretty sketchy looking place. But it might be an old lady in there somewhere. But most of the people on the track weren't that old. But I guess you just ask the riders because they're so busted up and got screws and plates and all that stuff. Like most of the riders that are running through my class, someone's had some kind of surgery.
Yeah.
Maybe they could tell you, oh yeah, the weather's coming. But I like technology. I think the radar does good. People should pay more attention to it.
So basically the rule of thumb is to not wait for somebody else to tell you it's a rain race. to just plan your own
You
shit.
mean for the series to tell you?
Yeah, wait for
No,
the series to tell you, declare it a wet race, or you
series,
just plan your own thing.
the series does not determine what tires you put on the bike. They just tell
Okay.
you whether you're going to stop in the middle of the race or not.
Okay.
That's all. If they say it's a dry race, like, oh shit, So, or if they say it's a wet race and it's drying, you're like, oh crap, because you have to stop if you screw up on the call. But if they said it was if they said it was going to be a dry race, we may have changed our minds and gone with dries because we know they're going to red flag it.
And just hope that they don't throw their shit on the ground while it's raining before they come in.
Well, our guys are probably a little bit smarter than that, but they could be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Like Baz was going really good with those slicks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he ended up finishing pretty far back, but he did pretty decent. I think he's got a lot of wet experience. So, I think Chavi said it was pretty sketchy out there. I don't know what they did to his bike. He finished on the podium because he was on wet tires too. Like he was parked right next to us.
I was stoked to see him on the podium too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know it's good. He's a really good guy, and hate to see him struggling, and so it was good to see him on the podium.
Yeah. So I was curious, how much different, because I know that Lombard Street area,
13, 14, whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty slow. I mean, it's first. Yeah, I mean, you're banging down to first gear on the entry, right? Even in the dry, you're banging down the first. So I'm curious, how much faster or equal are they pace wise going down the Lombard Street?
What is it, about maybe 40% slower?
Really?
Wet. I mean, they're pretty parked. I think they were only going 40K or something like that through that corner, maybe a little less in the wet.
Like 25 mile an hour ish.
Yeah, it's a really slow corner. For guys that think they go through there in second gear, they're smoking crack. The bike will never slow down.
Right.
You need
even
that
a stalker. I can attest to that.
Yeah, even on stalker, you need first gear. That track uses quite a bit of first gear.
Yeah, I think I was using it like 3 or 4 times.
Maybe someone has was talking about arm pump in first gear, or maybe you said that. It might have something to do with the first gear corners and how much load it puts on your body, but for sure there's some heavy braking there. 12 bar braking. But yeah, that corner is pretty slow. I mean, we could probably bring up some data if you want to and compare.
Sure, man. I'm also curious how now that I'm thinking about, and you said the 12 bar of braking pressure on the way into, which corner are they braking harder into? Is it turn 1 chicane, or is it the top of the hill?
Turn 1 is pretty hard, and the top of the hill is pretty hard.
Right.
And then also, I have to go back and look, but
they look like they're cooking up the hill, man.
Yeah, I think coming up, what is it? Turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or something like that. That first left-hander, I think they brake pretty hard up there too.
Okay.
Yeah. The other one, which is a real tight left, where you do the second sector, you do the big fast sweeper. I can't remember what corner that is. I think 9 or 10. That one, that left-hander there isn't as hard of braking because you're kind of leaned over braking. So it's not like a straight up and down, smash the lever down type thing.
Right.
No, but for sure the front straightaway, and then going into that turn 13 area, that brake before they drop down the hill, that's pretty hard braking going first. And I was kind of surprised to see Bobier crash twice there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a bummer. He had a shit weekend.
Oh, dude, like he's walking around with a cane and stuff. It's like,
well, he's trying to do the same thing that Jake's doing. He's just collect up some points so they can both heal in one fashion or the other and try to. I mean, how crazy this year, Yeah. Both of the guys are supposed to be racing each other out with injuries, or racing injured, or Jake doesn't look injured, but he's struggling through the races, right?
Dude, Chuck Axland mentioned something about that to me. He's like, man, it's amazing to me that there's a couple of guys that are top guys in Superbike that are doing whatever they can do to just hang on to the,
to the pack.
I mean, it's an unusual year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any idea who's going to win the championship. I think it all depends on who heals first. I mean, it's possible that at a couple more weeks with Cameron Bobier, that is, he can go out and get 2 wins at Laguna, and then do a triple at Coda, and then win everything, Ohio, and Like he has Ohio experience. He was fast there when he wasn't injured. So I mean, he could win all the rest of them. You never know. If
Right.
Jake struggling with his arm, or Jake get his arm fixed and something goes, magically great after Laguna, and then Jake's winning all the rest of them.
Right.
Or Heron just keeps punching away at podiums and an occasional win. So he's got, I think, 2 now.
Right.
So I think the win record right now is 3 for Bobier, 3 for Cameron Peterson. So both Camerons are equal 3. And Heron's got 2, Fong's got 2, and then Jake's got 1. I think that's all the wins right there.
Right.
So pretty strange to say Jake's only got 1 win and it's in the middle of the season already, 11 races later or whatever we've been doing.
So Joel is saying, is asking if Joel RN is asking, is there anyone still crying, quote, cheating in all caps?
Cheating.
I don't know what that is. Joel, elaborate on your cheating comment, dude.
Yeah, which class? I mean, the Supersport class seems like there's a lot of crying about Strack and how fast they're going and all that stuff. You still hear a lot of Supersport crying.
He's the only guy in R6 is ripping though, like every weekend. Could be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Blake Davis. He should be ripping. Maybe we could shame him into stepping it up.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, Kayla's stepped up.
Yeah, she's doing really good. I mean, she impressed me in the last in the wet and in the next race dry. Like the whole weekend, she's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So do you want to get to some of that data, man?
Sure, man.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, let's look at that. Let's look at that where they're going to the brakes versus dry.
Yeah, I can do an overlay. Yeah, wet to dry. We'll just pull like the fastest lap of each.
Yeah.
In the race, right?
Oh, he said like Heron crying. I'm like, that narrows it down, Joel.
Yeah. I think you gotta let me.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I gotta ditch us though.
Yeah.
Gotta get rid of our ugly mugs so we could just see the.
Yeah. So we'll get a chance to look at the data instead of you and me talking crap.
And I see that the track map is showing up this time, so that's neat.
Yeah, because we have our race team server hooked in, synchronizing with our shop server, and so whenever that happens, it does better. So let's just open up here's the wet right at the end in the wet.
Yeah.
And give it a second there, and then we'll go to race 2, Peterson. Here's his fastest lap there in the race. He did a few 40s, low 40s. So
while we're waiting, there's a guy that's wondering if Yamaha plans on following the R6 path to allow more mods on the R1, since the new bike will be track only. I haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they're trying to work on some concessions in World Superbike, and if they do that, then maybe MotoAmerica will be willing to let us have some of the concessions as well. So I don't know. So down the front straight, you're going 245 over here versus 267.
Okay.
So
wow.
But strangely enough, the slowest corners aren't that far apart.
Right. So Lombard Street obviously is the slowest corner, right?
What's that?
The Lombard Street area is the slowest, isn't it?
Right here.
Yeah.
So right there, which is that, it's actually the right-hander, like that area right there.
Yeah.
And that left to right, I guess you could call it. That left area goes right. So we can zoom up on that area there. And yeah, we're talking about 44K versus 39K.
So it's not dramatic.
No, not in that area, because you almost stopped.
Yeah.
And that's all about setting up, like that little area there, you're just trying to set up that left, to go right. And so it's not that big a deal, I guess you can say. They're just kind of dropping down in there. But, they don't get a really good run in the wet. So, and see here too, you've talked about, I think you were mentioning that Gillum overshot the the chicane there.
Yeah,
right?
he finished the race. He crossed the checkered flag.
Yeah.
You know, I think he fell down and then picked the thing up, and he was like in 13th or 14th, and rode like an absolute maniac and finished 4th on the racetrack. But when he crossed the start finish, you know, after the checkered flag, he didn't do the chicane. He just kept going straight.
Yeah. Yeah. And the rule is you have to go through the chicane.
Mm,
And I don't know why they're doing the rule the way they are, but I can tell you the logic behind a rule like that.
okay.
And whenever you have a turn that's close to the start finish line, if a guy is, let's say, drafting each other, and the one guy decides, I'm not going to brake for the chicane, I'm just going to keep a pin past start finish,
Right.
especially in the wet where your peak speed is before start finish,
Right.
you could potentially go a meter or two more than the next guy and not make that left.
Okay.
And beat out the guy you're drafting or
Right.
whatever and just overshoot. If you have to make the corner, then you have to kind of set up for the brakes. Because start finish, more on the super bikes than the little bikes, the start finish is really close to where top speed is.
Now, is the top speed at that racetrack because, you know, there's that right-hander after the water tower that leads up, and it seems to accelerate on the side of the tire all the way up to that sharp left at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
And like, are they going faster there, or are they going faster on the straightaway?
Let me have a look there.
I was just curious.
So the fastest is, I'll show you right now. The fastest is going to be on the front straight.
Is it?
Yeah. So go ahead and put that thing back up there.
Putting it back.
Yeah. So if you're back here looking, so obviously this is the map, and this is the front straightaway, and you can kind of see that, you know, on this particular lap, he went 267. All depends on how deep he wants to go on the brakes.
Okay.
So you can see you're still accelerating through here. So the deeper you want to go on the brakes, the faster you can go into that straightaway. So Cameron was a lot of times 160 something miles an hour, 161 or so, 162. I think we saw JD. He's pretty much an animal getting in there. He was like 163. I think Heron was 1 or 2 miles an hour. So up there too. So that at 267, that's GPS speed too. It's not the wheel speed or something like that. That's 165 miles an hour getting in there. So that's about the fastest. It's not a really fast racetrack. The average speed, I think, is like 88 miles an hour or something silly. So it's not a super duper fast racetrack. It's more technical.
Right. Well, this is actually a good question.
Yeah.
Brian Green, I think he's a local up there. He saw the Insta 360 video from CP's bike. Yeah. And he's wondering what the number in the top right corner of the dash was.
Top right corner.
Yeah. Like, is it mile an hour? Is it? I think it said 65. And I was like, what?
Oh, that's temperature.
Oh.
It's water temperature.
65C.
Yeah.
Ah.
We don't do anything mile per hour.
Oh, it was like 65 miles. He slowed down.
Our tires are in bar, which makes the Dunlop guys crazy.
Of course.
You know, Mick had to put an Excel calculator on his. I mean, he has a little, you know, formula in his tablet there, so he can convert. And he's like, "How many? You guys running 42 psi in the front?" I don't have no idea what that means. We've been doing bar now for a few years, and
you're all, come on, dude. You're European or Australian, right?
Yeah, but everything is metric.
Yeah.
Except pounds per square inch. I mean, we're talking about the oil pressure, the fuel pressure, the kilometers an hour. Everything's metric on a motorcycle. All the nuts and bolts and screws and you name it. And then we got to use pounds per square inch. It's like somebody using foot pounds to, you know, torque up a motorcycle.
Newton meters. Decinewtons.
Newtons, yeah.
Yeah, I still use that sheet that you gave me.
Yeah. Yeah, it works.
Dropbox.
It works, yeah.
Yeah. This year your team is running the new transmission and stuff. Like, has there been any benefit compared to using the stalker?
We used it last year also.
Yeah. And the neutral lockout, obviously, but
yeah.
I mean, that seems like a pretty good benefit, right?
Depends on the racetrack. You know, some racetrack we're up against the limiter top gear, like Road Atlanta.
Hmm.
So it may be a bit of a deficit Road Atlanta because we're constantly trying to deal with how much RPM we have going through that back straightaway
Yeah.
versus our first gear corners. But it is a benefit first to second, let's say. Some of the corners we can jump off of. We haven't been able to show that very, very well this year because, rider issues or whatever.
You had two riders that are.
Yeah, I mean, one guy's recovering, the other guy's, I don't know.
Still trying to figure out what's going on.
Trying to figure out what's up, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about some other classes, man. I mean, obviously...
There were other classes there?
Oh, well, I think you know that there's other classes there because I know that you're supporting a couple of teams that are in the front in the other class.
Yeah, I mean, we've given some support to a few people, yeah. So
you got the Rahal guys. I mean, honestly,
the Rahal guys use some of our components. Obviously, we're not building any of the engines or doing any Ducati stuff, but we do have some of our components on their bikes, and yeah, they're doing pretty good. And then Strack is, we're doing the engine work for those guys. And the development's going good on the R6. I mean, it's the same. It's the Chevy of motorcycles, basically. I mean, it's been built every which way.
The R6 is the LS.
Yeah, LS7 or smaller.
That's hilarious.
Compared to Porsche, it's like the GT2, let's say, or I mean GT3, and the big bikes, the GT2. But anyway, so it's a good chassis. It's well proven. They're obviously getting the most out of it. Matt's getting the most out of it. I mean, he should be. He came off of Superbikes where it's pretty cutthroat, having to race guys like Jake and Bobier, and he's been through the ringer in Superbike. Petrucci and Baz and all these guys that come here and super fast guys that can set a track record. And he's been trial by fire, and he hops on that little mini bike class basically, and he should be winning.
The mini bike class, Jesus.
It is. You got almost half the horsepower, and you have to ride the wheels off it. That's the way it is. And he's riding the wheels off it. And I guarantee if you put that R6 on a dyno compared to one of the Suzukis, it'll be down power wise. I guarantee it. I've been told that by people who have those Suzukis.
Yeah.
What kind of numbers they're getting. And it's just that you have to be smart when you're running a small bike with high RPM, that you can actually use the gearbox properly so you can keep it in the power band the whole time. And you got to roll. You got to roll the corners. So, I think Matt said, well, it's a little bit sluggish getting off the corner sometimes. But that's when you get stopped in the middle of the corner, right?
Yeah.
So that's the negative. If you can't roll the speed, if I had to race Matt, let's say it was me and I was, whatever, I was a fast guy and had to race him, I'd be stopping him in every corner. So he couldn't out accelerate me because he's going to use that front tire no matter what to get into those corners.
Right.
And if he can roll the corner, he's going to get away. And that's
did you just like teach PJ how to beat him?
I don't know. Whoever wins. That's great. But obviously because we're a Yamaha team, we want the Yamaha to win. But the Rahal guys win too. It's a win for us. Whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, the Rahal team's coming along. I mean, like I told you before, I had PJ picked to win the thing, but that was before I knew that Matt was in the class. So I'm rooting for Matt. Obviously, sorry, PJ, love you, but no. Yamaha. Yeah.
I mean, Matt's really good. It was like those guys are like the Three Stooges: Matt, Cameron Peterson, and Jake. I mean, those guys are like all buddies.
Yeah.
Even when they race Superbikes together, they're buddies, off the track. And so, yeah, I mean, I know that the Rahal guys protested Matt for that pass.
Really? And
he got sanctioned, I think, the time penalty, but I don't think at the end it made any difference. So it's kind of a weird deal. Like, I don't know what they expected as far as a result from that protest.
Yeah.
Because Matt, and to me, it looked like Matt was already inside of him and going for the normal race line, and maybe PJ was focused on his race and didn't just tunnel visioned and didn't see him to the left. He turned back to try to get to the apex, and Matt was already there, and it was a racing accident. But I think they ended up penalizing Matt 3 seconds or something like that, which didn't end up changing anything.
Right.
So in the end, first they said no further review, and then they protested. They had to do a further review, and then it came up with a penalty. So I was like, Are they trying to appease the Rahal guys? Is that what's happening? Because they go away unhappy with a 3-second penalty, and then Matt goes away, or Strack goes away unhappy being penalized. It didn't really, it was a no-win situation for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like a racing incident on track. Certainly wasn't intentional looking, you know.
No, it didn't look intentional.
It didn't
I
look like
that,
he Marquez'd him into his leg. You know, he didn't
I
use
think
him
that
as
was more Heron at Daytona. I think he was offline and pushed Escalante all the way out into the marbles.
Yeah.
You know, I think he just bombed it in there and he was offline, you know, where this one here, he was pretty much online and he had made the pass. He was already halfway or more across. And PJ just turned back in and caught his peg or something and fell over.
Right.
You know, so kind of a bummer. I hated to see that because that was a good race and it was going to be pretty fun to the end. And I've been watching a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, dude, you know, Kayla, she rode really well.
Yeah.
The braking was really strong, you know, and you know, I guess she doesn't need testosterone because she's doing a good job.
Dude, keep riding like a girl.
Yeah, if that's the way a girl rides, and keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? The other blue Rahal Ducati this past weekend. Corey was, dude, that guy's.
He kept confusing me with that paint job.
I know, right?
He kept looking over and go, "What's Blake Davis doing there?" Like, oh, that's Corey.
Yeah.
They're both kind of tall. Corey's quite a bit taller, but no, he's riding really good too because the guy's gigantic.
He's had a hell of a season though. Like he's kind of running top 5 pretty much every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Brainerd, he was in there. I think the only thing with his size is probably puts a lot of wear on the tires. You know, but there is you know, weight rule in super sports. So if those guys can shed some weight on the bike, maybe they can make up for some of it. I don't know where they can find the weight, you know, especially with a stock bike. But if they can do something.
Watching Corey Alexander go through the corner, and the guy is so gigantical that he's barely leaned over and he's already dragging his knee and his elbow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the super sport class is actually kind of fun to watch, you know.
Yeah. Because
the racing's been kind of close.
Yeah.
You know, right to the line. I guess Superbike's been kind of fun too. It gets a little boring when the guys stretch out. They don't race, but you know, all big bikes have always kind of been that way. It's like same with MotoGP when they get spread out, You're like, okay, I'm gonna make a sandwich. Yeah. Atlanta was good. You know, those guys were all in a pretty good fight.
I mean, there was some talk on the podium, and I actually confirmed it with Chuck, but on the podium, they were saying it looked like there was more people there. I think Bobby was saying it. There's more people there at the Ridge than he'd ever seen. Yeah,
the Ridge is out of the beaten path there. You know, it's not anywhere near really Seattle. You have to drive basically an hour or so.
Right.
And even from Olympia, which is, you know, a stupid little city. And you know, it's a weird little place. But anyway, so you still got a half hour north to go from there. So it's out in the middle of the woods. So if people show up to that, that's pretty good. You know, where Brainerd's kind of a resort type style city where there should be quite a few people there. You know, they come and hang out. So yeah, I mean, for people to show up to Ridge, it's good.
Chuck said it was up 25 to 30%.
I don't know what that means. I mean, was there 1,000 people and now 1,250?
That could be.
When people use percentages, I laugh because they don't want to tell us the total.
Yeah, I don't know. He said it was up 25 to 30%.
I believe him.
But when I see riders on TV saying that it looks like there's more people there than they've ever seen, did it feel stacked? Did it feel busy?
Average.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't go there expecting. It's kind of like Portimao. Remember Portimao?
Yeah, dude. Ghost town.
There's nobody there.
Ghost town. Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like I was at World Superbike Test.
Yeah.
It felt a little more than that.
Okay. That's fair.
So, yeah. I wouldn't say it's Laguna Seca or Road America.
Yeah, he did say that Laguna is trending up as well. And I guess they had to open up camping, the additional camping, you know, 3 times, he said. Oh, and I just got a text from Ken Hill on the Rahal subject. He said 100% MotoAmerica is playing to Rahal, and the GSXRs make 138 horsepower.
I don't know. Maybe they're GSXR. I've heard more out of other ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Maybe you'll tell me which ones, and I'll tell Ken so he could find out.
just telling you, certain
Yeah.
people that may have bought our semi.
Oh, yeah. Dude, Jake Lewis was running in the front for a little bit, right? Like he was running in
Yeah,
the front group.
yeah,
So,
he's a big boy too.
yeah. Well, he's a big boy in another way, right? He eats a lot of peanut butter sandwiches.
I don't know what his diet is. I just think he's a big boy. He rides real
Wow.
good though. Same with Hayden Gillum. I mean, that guy's pretty
Yeah.
fit, pretty big, muscular. So
Yeah.
he's I mean, he's lucky he's on a really fast motorcycle.
Yeah. It looks like that Honda is quick, man. I mean, he's doing Superbike times on a stock 1,000, right?
Yeah,
So, like, hopefully Honda gets their shit together and goes Superbike racing.
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. With Kawasaki pulling out a World Superbike, making a Bimota, it's like
Right.
Cowie and Honda are kind of tied together sometimes.
Yeah.
If one does something, the other one does the same. It always seemed that way in history as far as street bike racing goes. So,
Hmm.
the Honda and Cowie pulled out of DMG at the same time in 2009, basically. So then that was that. They haven't really been back wholeheartedly since. That's
Yeah.
it's a long time.
Yeah. Again, the Attack Honda comment. Like, dude, the Attack program's under contract with Yamaha. Get over the Honda thing.
I can't say for how long, but it's a bit longer.
Yeah. Right. So, what do you think about Mark Marquez going to factory Ducati next year? GP.
I wasn't a Marquez fan. I was the very first test. I don't know if it was their first test. It might have been at Coda. It was the very first test at Coda. We had our CRT bike, and I watched him ride. I said, "Man, that guy's impressive." I mean, he was doing the elbow dragging and stuff before there was such a thing as elbow dragging.
Right.
The shoulder, elbow, hip, whole thing. Getting lean angles. You're like, "What the hell?" But he was always kind of a bit of strange on the racetrack as far as not a friendly guy.
Yeah.
But lately, the determination he's had to come back from those surgeries, those injuries, and all that stuff really made me a fan.
Yeah. Like he looks happier as a dude.
As a person,
Yeah. Like he
I
doesn't.
think he's got. I mean, I gotta guess that he has so much money that it doesn't matter.
Right.
His career could end now, but coming back from those injuries and being able to get on the podium and race the way he wants to race, and not having the Honda trying to kill him every single weekend.
Yeah.
Which is really strange to see that. I mean, if anybody followed GP for the last 2 or 3 decades, I mean, it's strange to see the Honda in the back.
Yeah.
Very,
Yamaha too.
yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the Japanese are really struggling when it comes to but that might turn around. Everything goes in cycles, so it might turn around. The Honda's a gigantic company. I mean, they've done Formula One car engines, they've done everything. They do airplanes, they do drones, they do robots, they do whatever they want to do, they can do. So if they want to win MotoGP, they can spend the money into it. It's just a matter of time. That's one thing that I think the Europeans have is they have a big advantage on time because they get stuff turned around fast.
So Cody Krieger says you can tell Marquez is from a different generation of racers than the rest of the paddock. How can you tell that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess he's the old guy now, but to me, he was always a kid. Rossi was the old generation, right?
Right.
Rossi, Colin Edwards, those kinds of guys that were in GP. But yeah, I suppose he's the older guy. I don't know how you can tell. He's using all the buttons and switches and levers like everybody else is.
Yeah.
I think when they go away from the squat devices a couple of years, that I think if he's still there, he might have an advantage.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the few guys that have ridden the undeveloped motorcycles. They didn't come from Moto 2 and straight onto buttons and bells and whistles and morphing motorcycles. He rode basically a similar motorcycle with fixed ride heights and things like that. I mean, the engineers will come up with something to make the bikes better and faster, but they always do. But Marquez has already been there in all that development path, so I think he might have an advantage. You never know.
Yeah. Chunky Buns says, just a heads up, spoiler alert, Marquez will not be winning at Germany.
Okay.
She's the one that has the $100 bet a weekend against
Okay.
Marquez winning.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll see. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the talent's pretty stacked, you know.
Yeah.
But I think Marquez has got as good a shot as anyone.
Yeah. We talked about it on a show last night. Like ever since the decision was made, and Jorge Martinez going over to Aprilia, he's now finishing second instead of winning.
No, that's baloney. No racer wants to lose. I don't care what the contract.
No, I don't. No, I'm saying that there's maybe some politics there that are keeping.
No, that's baloney.
That's
I mean, as far as getting a crappy
theory.
bike, as far as getting a crappy bike,
right?
I think they might put a little more effort into the other guy.
Right.
So I mean, that I'm sure that's the case, like the team. But I don't think he's getting any worse motorcycle because the development's kind of fixed through the year. You think about it, they're going from race to race. They don't have a lot of time to be throwing things at it.
Right.
And it isn't like there's going to all of a sudden they're going to put this one thing in there and the other guy's going to win by 3 seconds. You know, I think it might be just, you ran out of steam, or who knows what. Maybe his own mind, he's wrapping it up. Who knows? Just that all it takes that little bit puts you from first to third or fourth. So go first to second, it still requires a lot of effort.
Yeah.
A lot of effort.
So what do you think about what's going on in your class, the competition now, with Beaubier being injured, so that, JD's still kind of struggling to figure out how to ride that.
Yeah, that BMW is just, I watch it and it does the same thing across all 3 motorcycles.
Really?
And it's that's the most I've seen JD crash.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's a flat tracker. He's like a weeble wobble, he shouldn't be falling down. And Beaubier, I mean, that's the most I've seen him crash too. I mean, at first you're saying, okay, maybe he's got the Moto2 mentality, but he crashed our bike, I think, 3 times the whole time he rode it. It was pretty rare. And he won a bunch of races. I know the pace is faster now. I mean, without a doubt, he's going faster now than he did on our bike in 2020. But it's 4 years later, he should be. Everyone should be. The tires are different. The tracks are all getting repaved. The tracks are faster. So he should be going faster. But he's crashed every single weekend that he's ridden a motorcycle. So that's kind of strange. And SDK, he's had a few falls too.
Yeah.
Like he had the exact same crash as Beaubier had in turn 3 at Brainerd. He chucked it in there, just touched the throttle, and whoop, it high-sided him. I'm like, how do you high-side a modern superbike these days?
Uribe was saying that they treat the BMW kind of like a really fast dirt tracker. So he says they'd use the rear tire to rotate the bike because otherwise, like in line, it won't turn. So
I suppose, I heard that it has a mind of its own sometimes when it's entering the corner.
Yeah.
And that contributed to Beaubier's crashes.
Yeah.
I think the first one was just he got in there hot and then just lost the front over a bump.
Yeah.
And the second one, it looked like he crashed really early. And because of his foot, he can't use the rear brake. And so when he blipped it back, I think it lurched forward. First. So maybe it missed the sector. I don't know. I'm only guessing, what would cause weirdness, power changes, engine braking changes from corner to corner where the thing's got a mind of its own, usually sector related. You tune a bike for this particular sector. I wanted a freewheel in first right there because I'm flowing, and then I wanted to stop really hard in this next corner, first. And if you don't have the rear brake to kind of adjust for that difference in engine braking, then you could have a bike that runs on. You're trying to stop it all with the front tire. You're going to tuck the front. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So it might be sector. I don't know, but I heard through various channels, everyone talks a little bit, and they're having some issues with the bike having a little bit of mind of its own. And I think it's caught JD out a few times, and maybe caught Cameron out a few times. So I don't know. It's still I think the top rack thing is just a top rack thing.
Yeah.
You can't just go, oh man, the BMW is just going to whip everybody. It's like, that's top rack.
Yeah. Did you
on a motorcycle?
I mean, you're not reading the comments, but there's
No, I'm not.
I'm gonna make this the last comment because
Okay.
we're running kind of long. But
Okay.
Joel says that he and his buddy are having this massive debate about Top Rack, and his buddy hangs out around Top Rack and Keenan.
Yeah.
And he says they think that Top Rack should go to MotoGP, and the debate that Joel's giving is that, dude, he's too old to adapt to MotoGP. I think you had a different opinion on that a couple of years ago, didn't you? Something about like the way
Well,
he
he,
uses
he
the front
tested
tire
the
on the
he
Pirelli.
tested. If you recall, he tested the Yamaha MotoGP bike when it was doing well,
Right.
and he didn't do all that good on it. So I think his size, his build, his methodology of riding is so ingrained in Superbikes right now.
Yeah.
And if he can make a boatload of money, then good on him. But I think there's some politics on the back end of that too, which I've heard. Like Sofoglu is, again, this is all secondhand information.
Right.
Coming from decent source, actually. But Sofoglu is his manager.
Yeah.
And they have Turkish money from the government. And so if Toprak goes to MotoGP and they lose the Turkish money.
Oh, okay.
Something to that effect. I don't understand why.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't understand why Turkey would care if he's racing a MotoGP bike or he's racing unless Sofoglu loses him as a client, which I don't understand that either. So I think it's kind of BS. But that's what I heard. So there's a little bit of pressure for it to keep him in World Superbike from Sofoglu, but I don't know if that's the case. It might be BS, like I said.
There's always BS, right? It's hard to
Yeah,
tell.
it's a small sport, and everyone's got big egos. There's lots of BS.
Right on. So what's the plan for Laguna?
Got some stuff.
Yeah, I heard you're gonna be making some explosions tomorrow. Like
yeah, I was trying to calculate out how many joules of energy I can explode in a cylinder, and if it matches how many fireworks that turns out to be. But I didn't, I ran out of time, so I didn't get the calculation done. Yeah, but it's got to be pretty big. So I figured if I run the bike for 15,000 RPM, trying to tune it for about an hour, I probably got my fair share of explosions for the day.
So you are spending. So 4th of July is not a holiday at Attack.
It is for everybody else, which is great.
Oh, so you don't have to listen to anybody's nonsense
go,
while you
go
work?
home and do their thing.
Okay.
And I'll still go home early and do some stuff, but
yeah,
come in early and get some work done on the dyno, and then be ready for the next time.
Can you guys even America down in California?
Can we do what?
Oh, it's irate Barry's nonsense comment.
Look, douchebag.
Yeah, like you're looking at the American flag over the guy's shoulder, dude.
Yeah.
I think Barry's talking about our state being kind of commie. So
our state being what, communist?
Kind of, yeah.
We're in Orange County. We're in Huntington Beach.
Yeah, he's in Huntington
Beach. We have that. See that?
Freedom in Huntington Beach. Yeah.
That thing there.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. Well, I guess I'll see you in a couple weeks at Laguna. A week and a half.
Yep.
I'm headed to Dakota this weekend to ride.
Well, that should be kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, keep doing
Have you ridden there before?
Nope.
Oh, that should be exciting.
Yeah.
Long straightaways.
Yeah. Well, I had my artwork.
You got too much time to think before you break.
Yeah. Well, should I bring a microwavable burrito and heat it up?
I remember we had this racer. His name was Ben Attard. He's from Australia. Yeah. He always liked the technical, scary, like Sears Point and Mid Ohio, which should be fun because that's another roller coaster track with blind corners. And he did good at those things. I go, how come you don't do good? Like, you don't really like Road America? He goes, gives me too much time to think, mate. I don't like it.
I still think that some of that is because all the tracks in Australia are like go-kart tracks.
Well, probably, or in BSB, right?
Right.
I mean, I think a 600 will outgrow the BSB tracks. I don't think anybody wants to spend any money to make them safer, so they keep dumbing down the motorcycles.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, I'm gonna let you get back to doing whatever you're doing, man. Thanks for all your time, and Thanks for everybody for commenting and watching this stuff. You know,
All 3.5 people.
yeah. There's only 55 left right now, but I think we had like 4,500 or something for a while.
Yeah, I'm not calling Heron names and things like that, so it's not, I'm not calling him a dummy because he's winning races. So,
dude, he's actually riding well, and he's keeping his mouth shut, so that's cool.
No, he's all right. He's all right. He's turned into a family man, which I respect that. And he's riding good, and the track and the tracks and that Ducati seem to be coming together. I mean, he's gonna probably give everyone fits at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. I'm gonna let you get to it. Thanks, you guys, for watching, and ending this thing now.
All right, later.